The movie begins with an ominous view of a water tank on a rooftop, and it is clear that something has gone terribly wrong. On this gloomy morning on the festive day of Christmas, the police discover the dead body of Ju Wol-woo floating inside the tank and fail to determine whether it is a case of suicide or if there is foul play at hand. The scene shifts to Ju Il-woo, the twin brother of the dead boy, sitting in a bus all alone on his way to a juvenile detention center. He solemnly believes that his brother was murdered in cold blood. Determined to get revenge, he commits a minor crime to intentionally end up at the detention center, where he believes he'll find the culprit. Inside the center, he is escorted to a room to meet his teacher and therapist, Mr. Cho Soon-woo, whose role is to guide him through his time in the detention center. Cho Soon-woo inquires about Il-woo's grandmother and is surprised to learn about her death, which occurred only a few days after his brother's death. He tells Il-woo how he used to do volunteer work and had helped out Il-woo's grandmother as well as his twin during times of need. After further questioning, Soo-woo becomes aware of Il-woo's grand plans of purposely being convicted for revenge and tells him that he is wrong to believe that his brother was murdered. Il-woo loses his temper at this and replies that Moon Ja-hoon, the person whom he suspects to be the killer, has connections in the police and the media that had helped him escape his actual sentence. During a class, Moon Ja-hoon passes a snarky remark about Il-woo's dead twin, making him burst out in a fit of rage. He tries attacking Ja-hoon, cursing at him and threatening to kill him, but Ja-hoon's friends keep him guarded, laughing at Il-woo as he is taken away. As Il-woo and some other inmates are kneeling outside the class, they encounter Officer Han Hee-sang, infamously known for his cruel punishments. The officer asks the obscure request to those involved to bark like dogs if they wish to be forgiven, and everyone besides Il-woo complies and gets to leave. Feeling humiliated, Il-woo defends himself before the officer, oblivious to his barbaric practices. Officer Hee-sang suddenly punches him in the face, and as Il-woo is manhandled by two other officers, Hee-sang pulls out a baton to continue his beating. Eventually, the concerned teacher Cho Soon-woo intervenes, but Il-woo is still placed under solitary confinement under the cruel officer's orders. Lying on the floor whimpering in pain, Il-woo is reminded of the day he last saw his dead brother's face, smiling and staring out peacefully into the abyss. It is then revealed that Il-woo's twin had autism, making him have childlike tendencies, which is why his death was so easily labeled as an accident, despite obvious injuries to his face. The next day, Il-woo overhears Ja-hoon's accomplices in the restroom talking about him and his brother, making fun of his twin's pathetic begging as he would get bullied. Losing his temper once more, he barges into a cubicle and locks himself in with one of the bullies, pulling out a pair of scissors he stole from the nurse's office. He threatens to kill the guy, urging him to spill all he knows about his twin's demise. The bully swears he isn't the one who killed his twin, although he admits to having beaten him the day he died. Meanwhile, the teacher Soon-woo has already been alerted, and he arrives at the restroom banging on the cubicle door, begging Il-woo to come out. Inside the cubicle, Il-woo is almost delirious, hearing the cries of his brother getting bullied. Consequently, he slashes the scissors, putting a deep gash on the bully's face. Just then, Soon-woo finally breaks through the door too, restraining Il-woo as more officers arrive and take him away to spend another miserable night in solitary confinement. Soon-woo looks up to see Officer Hee-sang observing the commotion with a calm look on his face, knowing Il-woo is in grave trouble. The same night in his cell, Il-woo is awoken by the sound of the cell door creaking open. Before he can fully react, he is struck hard by a wrench multiple times in the head by another one of Ja-hoon's accomplices. His pale face bathes in blood from his wound as he lies limp on the cold cell floor, unable to make sense of what's happening. Hee-sang is aware of this but does nothing to help Il-woo. As he observes the blood scene before him, the bully backs away in horror, shaking in disbelief at the violence he has committed. As he is about to leave, Il-woo gathers enough strength to rise up on his feet and ambush him, confronting him about his twin brother's death. Il-woo is aware of the various disgusting methods the heartless guys had employed to bully his brother. The assailant says that he and his friends had robbed a convenience store and were afraid Il-woo's brother would tell on them, thus resorting to violence, though he still insists that they didn't kill Wol-woo. Hee-sang soon arrives at the scene to rescue the bully, but not before Il-woo rips out two of the assailant's teeth using the same wrench that he was beaten with. Hee-sang stuns him using a stun gun then, thus knocking him out. The next morning during a meeting, Hee-sang suggests Il-woo to be sent to another facility for his misdemeanor, but Soon-woo interjects and requests the authorities to give Il-woo another chance, saying he'll try talking sense into him. Soon-woo warns Il-woo about Hee-sang's plans, hoping it'll deter him from seeking revenge. However, he is still adamant about Ja-hoon's involvement in his brother's death, telling his teacher how he heard his brother being beaten up on a phone call the day he died, and how there is even CCTV footage of the bullies at the convenience store on Christmas Day where Wol-woo worked. He believes that Ja-hoon and his accomplices had committed minor crimes soon after, to escape their real punishment. Soon-woo initially listens to Il-woo intently, before telling him he would have no choice but to transfer him to another facility if his disruptive behavior continued. In class, another inmate named Sun Hwan offers Il-woo some pills to relieve his pain, but he refuses to take them. This man is yet another victim of Ja-hoon's bullying, and later during lunch, Il-woo watches Ja-hoon and his gang intimidate him from afar. During another consultation with Soon-woo, Il-woo notices a Santa Claus costume in a corner of his office. Soon-woo explains how he would visit Wol-woo during Christmas to cheer him up as a part of his volunteer work. In another effort to reason with Il-woo, the teacher emphasizes forgiveness, suggesting that Ja-hoon's gang might have accidentally killed his brother, urging him to put an end to this cycle of violence. Later that night, when Il-woo is picking up his clothes from the laundry room, he hears strange muffled noises coming from the room next to him. As he patiently waits and quietly looks out the window, he is shocked to see Han Hee-sung and Sun Hwan emerge from the room. Sun Hwan is carrying a bag of pills and cigarettes, which he later offers to Ja-hoon and his friends. However, they remain unsatisfied and start humiliating poor Sun Hwan, slapping him and asking him to take his pants off and urinate in front of all the inmates. The following morning, Il-woo stumbles upon Sun Hwan smoking all alone. It is then revealed that Sun Hwan is forced to bear Hee-sang's brutality just to acquire drugs and cigarettes for Ja-hoon and his gang. Moreover, it is revealed that Sun Hwan used to live in the same apartment as Wol-woo, was friends with him, and was even there with him on that fateful Christmas day. He confronts Il-woo about how he had failed to show up to meet his brother at a restaurant that day, due to which Wol-woo had gone back to work, where he had met his unfortunate demise. Il-woo becomes furious as he realizes that Sun Hwan was aware of what was waiting for Wol-woo back at work and had still let him go. Angrily, he pushes him to the ground but holds himself back from hurting him further, overtaken by guilt and grief. In the next scene, we are introduced to a new inmate named Bang Cheon being brutalized by Hee-sang. However, instead of pleading for mercy, he has a devilish grin plastered on his face. Later, when Bang Cheon finishes up beating an inmate, he glances over at Il-woo with a look of recognition on his face, suggesting they have some history together. In reality, Bang Cheon was transferred from another detention facility on the demand of Ja-hoon's rich father in order to eliminate Il-woo, who poses a threat to his son's life. The next day in class, Ja-hoon proudly confesses to Bang Cheon as well as the rest of his gang to have killed Wol-woo with no hint of remorse in his voice. Il-woo discovers Sun Hwan waiting for him in the restroom, where he discloses to him Ja-hoon's plans about getting him killed at the hands of Bang Cheon, and also fills him in on Ja-hoon's confession. Il-woo becomes overwhelmed as his suspicion is confirmed, and he also becomes concerned about his own safety, being well aware of Bang Cheon's violent tendencies. Back in class, Hee-sung lends his baton to Bang Cheon, which he uses to terrorize the students, assaulting anyone who would come in his way. Il-woo witnesses this chaos in silence, and his vision starts blurring as his eyes tear up and he flashes back to a time when he used to be partners with Bang Cheon, terrorizing innocent civilians. Overcome with emotions, he pukes, feeling sick to his stomach. He looks up to see the classroom empty beside one person who was a victim of Bang Cheon's violence earlier. Il-woo's heart softens as he approaches him and looks at his beat-up face before taking him to the infirmary. Later that night, in a state of pure desperation, Il-woo approaches Soon-woo, practically begging him for help. He feels completely defeated, yet his burning desire for revenge is still fresh in his heart. He finally persuades the teacher, who lends him the keys to the laundry room so he can investigate the strange noises he had heard earlier. With the keys at his disposal, Il-woo reaches the laundry room and notices the same whimpering coming from the inside. Every step he takes feels heavier than his last as he slowly approaches the source of the noise. In a dreadful turn of events, he sees poor Sun Hwan being raped by Hee-sang, and his pitiful moans give Il-woo another flashback of his brother lying in his bed, clutching his groin and whimpering in pain. Il-woo snaps back to reality, stunning Hee-sang with his stun gun, saving Sun Hwan. Il-woo asks him if his brother had ever suffered from such sexual abuse as well, to which he replies yes, telling him that Wol-woo would have a visitor come to his house regularly to molest him. As the pieces of the puzzle fall into place, we learn that Il-woo's work involved forcibly evicting civilians from their soon-to-be demolished homes. He was working extra shifts the day he was supposed to meet Wol-woo at the restaurant, which caused him to cancel his plans. However, after getting done with work, when he finally called him, all he could hear was his dear brother's whimpers as Ja-hoon and his friends beat him up. Il-woo breaks up in tears from the guilt of not being able to be there for his brother. The next day, Ja-hoon's mother pays him a visit, assuring him of his safety and promising to get him transferred to another facility within 1 week's time. Learning about Hee-sung's sudden disappearance, Ja-hoon becomes increasingly impatient and urges Bang Cheon to do his job and kill Il-woo. Later in class, in an effort to ease Il-woo's burden, Sun Hwan tells him how Woo was dedicated to his job and would have gone back to the convenience store anyway, whether Il-woo had shown up or not. With his thirst for vengeance overflowing, Il-woo plans to execute his revenge in the communal showers when the inmates are at their most vulnerable. He had discussed this with Sun-woo in detail, who gave him 40 minutes to carry out the task. Inside the shower, he waits until the guards are gone, then orders all inmates to leave except Ja-hoon. 3 of his friends stick by his side, ready to guard him. Il-woo takes on all 4 of them at once, miraculously fighting his way through them, getting gravely injured in the process. Ja-hoon manages to impale Il-woo in the abdomen with a shard of glass, sending him crashing to the floor. Gathering up every last drop of strength left in him, Il-woo approaches the injured Ja-hoon as he begs to be spared, getting down on his knees in repentance, screaming that he had not killed Woo. Meanwhile, in Sun-woo's office, he and Sun Hwan anxiously wait for Il-woo to return. With only 5 minutes left, Sun-woo arrives at the shower to discover Il-woo on the ground, barely able to move. Sun-woo then grabs a metal pipe and finishes up what Il-woo couldn't, killing all 4 of the inmates, including Ja-hoon. Sun-woo is arrested and sentenced to 4 years in prison for his crimes, but the sinister reality of his past is soon revealed by Sun Hwan, who had witnessed him molesting Woo dressed as Santa the day before he was killed. He spits on Sun-woo's face as he is dragged out of the courtroom. Back at the detention center, Il-woo lies wide awake, haunted by the memories of his dead twin. He remembers the night before Christmas when Woo kept bugging him about Santa and telling him how Santa liked him. Despite tears streaming down his face, Il-woo shrugged him off and went to sleep. The grave reality of Woo's words only starts setting in now, as Il-woo realizes his brother was hinting at Sun-woo and his disgusting acts of abuse. Il-woo goes to confront Sun-woo in prison, demanding answers about his brother's death, suspicious that he was the real killer of his twin. Sun-woo beats around the bush and evades all his questions with vague answers, frustrating Il-woo, who is escorted out by the prison guards. Finally, the real series of events that took place on Christmas is revealed. Woo, after getting battered by Ja-hoon and his friends, went back to the convenience store in a futile attempt to clean up the mess, out of concern for his job. There, he was picked up by Sun-woo, who led him to a rooftop to molest him once more. Unable to handle the traumatizing events inflicted upon him, he eventually passed out. In a state of panic, Sun-woo carried him to the water tank and dumped him into it, cursing himself for having bad luck. Back at the prison, Sun-woo discovers that Ja-hoon's father had already set him up for a miserable time there by hiring a man to take revenge on Sun-woo. A year later, Il-woo becomes a free man after completing his sentence at the detention center. He visits his former residence, which is now home to a new family. The movie concludes back on the rooftop where the tragedy had originally taken place, where Il-woo reunites with Sun Hwan, and they both reminisce about Woo singing his favorite Christmas carol. That was it for the recap, guys. Let us know in the comments if you like it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.